All right. Greetings, Rebel fans. My name is Jason Kelly, and this is the Let's Run podcast. I want to welcome you all to the show today. Um, we already have a Oregon State fan in here. Let's talk about baseball too. I would rather not talk about baseball. If you saw, UNLV baseball had a very rough outing against an Oregon State program that is historically very good at baseball. So credit to Oregon State. Hopefully the baseball team can recover from that. But let's talk about the Runnin Rebels. UNLV goes to Fresno State and comes out in one of the least inspiring, least impressive victories that I can remember being a UNLV fan. They played a truly horrific Fresno State team that has given teams, Fresno's kind of odd. They have some talent on their roster. I actually think Zayon Collins is a very good player. And obviously he was at one time kind of supposed to be the head of the UNLV basketball program. He has a lot of talent, but I think that Fresno State has made a grave mistake in hiring their high school coach that they've hired. I can't even remember his name. Fresno State has an awful head coach, and they are wasting their time with this guy. He can't. He's not going to fix that program or turn it around. They might as well have just kept Justin Hudson as opposed to hiring this guy. But UNLV goes to Fresno State on the road. It's a program. Fresno's a program that has given the Rebels a lot of trouble in the past, specifically in the Justin Hudson era, and even before that. Game data is currently unavailable, so I'm gonna have to wait for Ken Palm to update their gamer so that I can see all the stats because it's not giving me in ESPN the stats. The Rebels played terribly. Fresno State did not play well either. We at the end of the game, I guess I'll start there. 2 out of 4 on free throws is unacceptable in so many ways. Yeah. Getting to the line only 4 times, only 4 attempts, free throw attempts is really low. And yeah, I guess that's where we'll start. So the Runnin' Rebels were up, I think it was 50-40, and they scored. It was one of the patented late game Kevin Kruger offensive meltdowns where his teams freeze up. And they scored 4 points in their last like 5 minutes or something, including 2 missed free throws. One was a front end of a 1-and-1 by DJ Thomas. The other was a missed free throw after an and-1 by Jaden Henley. The team really seemed to clam up a lot at the end of this game, like they were terrified of winning. Luckily, they were playing Fresno State, as the Mass Rebel says, a big win against a Mountain West Conference powerhouse, pulling out a late win on the road, getting hot at the right time. Yeah, you're going to see some headlines. I'm sure Kevin Kruger in his post-game show with Steve Cofield will, tough game, always tough to win on the road here. Yeah, Fresno was on a 12-0 run at one point in the last 5 minutes of this game. This was an unacceptable performance. I mean, the fact that they won, listen, I know that there are so many Rebel fans that are completely frustrated with the Kevin Kruger era, that are frustrated with the DJ Thomas era, that are frustrated. And I can tell you personally that there were some fans, look, we all want UNLV to win, but there were some fans that would have enjoyed, letting loose a cannon of criticism on the basketball program tonight if they had fallen flat. And they did fall flat. I mean, like, the thing is, UNLV, did they win this game? Yes, they absolutely did. A win is a win is a win. Teams have tough games that they win, against teams that they shouldn't, be games where, Connecticut, UConn lost to 3-16 or 6-16 Seton Hall today. Like, there are weird results in college basketball. But this game had everything that you could possibly want from a bad Kevin Kruger coaching performance. It had weird lineups. It had a late game stall out where the offense completely clammed up It had missed free throws. I mean, this was Martin Scorsese. This was absolute cinema in terms of the, as Mike Cooper says, the classic Kruger meltdown. UNLV, thanks for providing some of these stats. I'm still waiting for Ken Palm or ESPN or somebody to post the stats because I don't have them. But 13 turnovers, 24% from three. There were so many just alarming statistics from this game, and so many things that you can look at and say, "Man, this team is not in a good headspace right now." They do get a week off now. Uh, I would say that the Mountain West schedule makers or whatever really didn't do UNLV a ton of service in terms of like when their bye week was. I don't know if there is a bye week um, that is worse than than one this late in the Mountain West Conference season. Um, but certainly the Rebels are in trouble in this game against Colorado State. I think you could have an ugly scene at the Thomas and Mack a week from today when they take on the Colorado State Rams, who seem to be peaking at the right time. I mean, this Colorado State team is playing really well, and if the Rebels put forth this type of effort against Colorado State a week from today, they're going to get absolutely annihilated on their home floor. Um, so I guess we'll talk about the positives, we'll talk about the negatives, and we'll try and, as best we can, talk about this game. Um, first of all, what? So first of all, my apologies. My wife needed to grab something from in here. Um, yeah, Nico Medved's a heck of a coach. He really is. He's a very good coach. And he's a guy that I'm sure we would love to have at UNLV. So I guess I'll start with the positives. There weren't a ton of positives, but I will start with the positives. Um, I thought that Bear Cherry was fine. He has had a nice, I wouldn't say surge toward, but he has kind of returned into playable form. There was a period of time in the middle of the season where Bear Cherry looked absolutely unplayable. Everything he touched turned to ash. Every post up was a disaster. There were turnovers. He couldn't score with any level of consistency. But what I've seen from Bear, and this is me talking about the positives first before we dive into the negatives. What I see from Bear is a player that is building a little bit of confidence, still struggles rebounding the ball, but has become an adequate rim protector. Has done better at not fouling. This was a game where the officials, thankfully, let the game play out. This was not an overly officiated game. That both teams were allowed a ton of contact in the paint and even on the perimeter. And it made it. The game was only like an hour and 50 minutes long from start to finish. I mean, it flew by. It was over before it even started, really. And sometimes games like that can put players in kind of odd rhythms. They don't. They're used to there being a little bit more time in between possessions, and I think that kind of was affecting both teams today because actually Fresno is not. Fresno is awful. Don't get me wrong, but they are not the worst offense I've ever seen. I think they have some shooting capability. Um, and so, I don't think Fresno. I think Fresno has some talent on their roster, but again, that coach of theirs just absolutely cannot be the head coach. I mean, that is a joke of a hire. That is like hiring Kevin Kruger. I mean, but with less resources um, and less support. Kevin Kruger, even though there's not great community support, the school does still technically support the UNLV men's basketball program. Whereas in Fresno, they absolutely do not. So Fresno is never going to turn it around. I mean, this new guy will never have a lead a good team at Fresno State, and you're going to see a lot of their players transfer at the end of this year. But yeah, Bear has kind of figured it out again. I've been really impressed with him. I think he's been solid. I can't really complain about the way that Bears put himself forward. Um, and um, I've been impressed with his ability to play defense without fouling. Pac-12 hiring high school coaches. The Pac-12 is going to be an incredible basketball conference. You look at Boise State, who has a solid basketball program. San Diego State obviously has a really good basketball program. Gonzaga is going to be in that conference. Colorado State has a really good basketball program. Um, but Fresno State is just a travesty of a basketball program. I mean, they have nothing going for them. And so that they're going to be the absolute floor mat of that league forever. Uh, I'm sure that they would honestly, their basketball program probably would rather be in the Mountain West, but even in the Mountain West, they're not going to be able to win very many games. Um, and so, yeah, Bear's been good. Who else? I thought Jaden Henley was serviceable tonight. Missing that late free throw was rough, but I thought that he generated some offense. His jump shot was working a little bit better. Defensively, he wasn't great. Wasn't great at keeping his man in front of him. Did seem to get lost off ball a little bit. But Jaden Henley was solid. I thought he had an okay game. I thought Bear had an okay game. And besides that, I mean, again, I don't have the stats in front of me. I saw them as I felt like Julian Rishwain had 4 or 5 wide open 3 pointers that you really would hope that he would knock down a couple more. I believe he hit 3 threes on the night, so he would have been like 3 for 9 or something like that. But I thought that Julian Rishwain kind of had a rough game. He also had a few turnovers. Um, didn't love this game from Wishwain. Yeah, and Banana Man puts it like this: why Rishwain played 31 minutes and Hicks played 12 is beyond me. I just Kevin Kruger's rotation, especially with the guys in the perimeter, Hicks, Rishwain, Bedford. It makes absolutely no sense to me the way that he has managed this team. Um, and I get playing Rishwain. Rishwain has some positives about him, but I feel like, and I actually don't think that. I actually don't think that Rishwain is the person whose minutes need to be cut. I actually kind of think it's Jalen Hill. I think his defense is solid, but I don't know that it's. I think that the team could function on the court without as many minutes of Jalen Hill on the defensive end. I think this team is slightly better defensively, maybe, than Kevin Kruger thinks it is. And that's kind of been Kevin Kruger's MO. He's always wanted to be a good defensive team. And that's the thing is you can see stretches where they play good defense. Um I thought they had legitimate stretches in this game where their defense looked serviceable. But yeah, Jalen Hill is a step slow. I think that Jalen is kind of the leader of this team, which is really unfortunate. Not because Jalen can't be a good leader, but he's not as vocal of a guy as this team needs as a leader. DJ is not a super vocal leader. I think that there has been a desire for DJ to kind of step up and be the voice of this team, and that hasn't materialized as much as you would think it would have at this point. The team lacks confidence on the court. They do. They looked clammy at the end of this game, and you could tell. And so, Kruger probably keeps Jalen Hill in just because he has the experience. I mean, Jalen Hill did play 4 years or 3 years or something. I think it was 4 years in the Big 12, and Jalen's a fine player, but he does look a step slow, and it looks like his career is kind of as it comes to a close, is going to end with him being not quite as good as he used to be at Oklahoma. Um, and I don't think that Jalen Hill has been a great player since he got to UNLV. But I do like Jalen. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm overly critical of him because I think he's a good player. I think he's a valuable contributor for this team, and he's certainly as a lifelong Vegas kid in Jalen Hill, I like and respect him. But yeah, I mean, it was a painful watch, and I think, and this is my mom. Hey, mom. Um, I think that the thing that freaked me out most about this game is that I don't think that the Rebels deserved to win. Um, but I don't think Fresno State deserved to win either. It seemed like it was two teams trying to hi, yeah, hi. It seemed like it was two teams trying to lose. It was a painful game, and a team was going to lose it. And UNLV, as the more talented team, came out on top. But I don't feel like we should walk away from this game with any sort of confidence in this team. You're going to see stories. Probably Ed Graney's probably going to write something in the Review Journal. Oh, the Rebels, a 3-game win streak. They're getting back on track. But if you've watched these games, I don't think that you can take any sort of confidence away from this team right now. Yeah, another negative. Pop wasn't great. Again, Pop's young. I think that Pop. I did like the lob that he caught from DJ on the baseline. I like Pop as a lob threat. Um, but yeah, I mean, Pop is still learning. He's still young, and I guess we'll see kind of what his future looks like at UNLV. I hope whatever coach we bring in to replace Kevin Kruger um, can get the most out of Pop, because I think Pop has a lot of potential. The Runnin Masshole asked Jason, in 2025, how can a team manage to score 52 points? It's hard to be this ineffective. Yeah, I think this game had a bad rhythm. I think that the players were surprised by how physical the officials were allowing them to be with each other. Both teams were actually kind of beating the crap out of each other the whole time, and I think that this game was just kind of a badly played game, um, badly coached game. I mean, it felt like, obviously, I think the Fresno coach is a joke. I obviously think that Kevin Kruger is not a good head coach. And it just felt like teams with talent. I actually think that Fresno team between Weaver and Collins, I think there's some talent on that team. But both of these programs are being headed by guys that just don't have it and don't inspire confidence and don't know how to pace their guys. Because honestly, I think that Kevin Kruger has looked to DJ to kind of be a leader for this team, when in reality, it should be Kevin who should be the leader for this team. You know, he should be the one on the sideline, inspiring confidence and getting his guys up. You know, you see Dan Hurley, who's ridiculous and a diva, but Dan Hurley knows that Dan Hurley's players at UConn know that his guys are important. His guys know that their coach has their back. Um, yeah, I don't know. Mike Cooper says, I think with a coach who can develop talent, this 2025 team is an NCAA tourney team. Um, I don't think I agree. Um, Perhaps. I mean, it would depend on who the coach is. Masshole disagrees. Um, it would depend on who the coach is. This roster, not currently. I mean, if Rob Whaley was healthy and we had the two-headed front court monster, and Jalen Bedford was playing a bit better, maybe. But you'd have to have an incredible head coach who knew how to get the most out of his players. Um, so I don't think it would. I think, yeah. I mean, maybe if they were healthy, they could be an NCAA tournament team. But I absolutely don't think that this roster has the requisite talent. Um, yeah, and this is kind of what I mean. Banana Man says, unless Kruger is worse, and we think he's ruining these players. I think to a certain extent you can say that about Kevin Kruger. You look at Keyshawn Gilbert, who kind of fell off a cliff at the end of his time at UNLV. You look at Keyshawn Hall. You look at players. Even Jackie Johnson has done well in his next stop. I don't think that Kruger is a great developer of talent. I think he tries to get established talent through the transfer portal. And I don't know that I can look at very many players in the Kevin Kruger era. You know, is Brooklyn Hicks better this year than he was last year? Probably a little bit, but I don't think that's because of UNLV's player development. I think that has more to do with Brooklyn just getting older. I can't think of a player who has. I can't think of a player who has improved over their time at UNLV under Kevin Kruger. To be honest with you, I really can't. I'm trying to think. You know, Shane Noel, probably not. Jackie Johnson, definitely not. DJ Thomas has not improved from last year to this year, at least at the end of last year to this year. Um, yeah, I mean, I can't think that I can't think of players that have, you look at a guy who's come into UNLV and has left a better player. Has Didon regressed, in my opinion? Uh, no, I mean, yes, he has, because some of the counting numbers and especially the advanced analytics don't look great for DJ. Um, so I wouldn't say that he's like a worse basketball player. I think the team around him is worse. And I don't think that he has great coaching. Like, I think DJ is worse at basketball than he was a year ago? No, he's at least the same. Maybe he's even a little bit better. But I think that he doesn't have great direction. I think that maybe bad habits of his are exacerbated by this coaching staff. Um, Yeah, and Banana Man kind of puts it. He's just been dealt a worse hand. DJ hasn't taken a leap by any means. He's not better, measurably better, but yeah, I mean DJ's been fine. I mean, if you blame this season on DJ, I think you're doing the program a disservice because one, I mean, DJ's a great player. He's being paid a lot to be the Runnin Rebel starting point guard. But at the end of the day, it's the coach's responsibility to make sure that he gets the most out of the roster that he's built. And it's the coach's responsibility, not DJ's responsibility, to build that roster. The fact that this roster isn't quite as good as we'd like it to be is not DJ's fault. And so, no, I wouldn't say that DJ's regressed. But he's not gotten better. And I don't think that, in terms of like talent development, DJ has to be shooting more threes than he is. I mean, he should be shooting 4 or 5 3-pointers a game. But I don't think that, I think that he's asked too often to drive the ball into the paint and create scoring opportunities in isolation. And it's made it really hard for him. So look, missing that free throw at the end of this game, not a good look. Not a good look for DJ. Eric says late to the party and with family, but wanted to stop by and say hey to the Runnin' Rebel community and Jason. Yeah, thanks. Everybody make sure you're following Eric. Big fan of him. He's great. Um, Basketball coaches need to have more personality than football coaches. They have the responsibility of developing 13 guys rather than 85. And Kruger seems like a nice but timid guy who can't lead a team. Yeah, I mean, Kruger is essentially, stale noodles or stale rice. There's nothing to him. There's no flavor to him. There's no nutrition to him. I'm sure, and actually I know that Kevin Kruger has a lot of basketball knowledge and a lot of basketball experience, but I just don't think he's a great leader. And I think he's relied on players to do the leading for him. And I think he is probably a really good assistant coach. And maybe in his career he will get another opportunity to be a head coach again. But certainly he is not going to be the head coach of UNLV next year. Although to be fair, I have said that there's nothing, even winning the Mountain West Conference tournament, that Kruger can do to keep his job. But I'm not actually 100% sure that that's true. I think if this program gets back to the NCAA tournament, with Mason Abin and Tyron Jones coming in, I think that there's talent coming in next year. If Kruger made the NCAA tournament, there's a chance he could come back. But he's not going to win the Mountain West Conference tournament. And I don't think that if you got his team, if you gave every player on this team a truth serum or a lie detector test, I don't think that this team believes that they can win the Mountain West Conference tournament, and so they won't. I don't think they believe it. Now, I'm sure if you ask them in passing, hey, can you guys win the Mountain West Conference tournament? I'm sure they would say, yeah, absolutely. We can beat anybody in this league. We went on the road and won at San Diego State. But when you're watching them try and close out this crappy Fresno team, I don't see that belief on the court. And I don't think that anybody sees that belief on the court, which is unfortunate. And that's the coach's responsibility. UNLV Rebel Gal. This a I think this is a new burner. UNLV Rebel Gal. Extend Kevin. Didn't you see the corner being? I don't know what you mean there, but that's funny. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that Kevin Kruger is just a mediocre kind of guy. Um, Master Rebel says there isn't enough talent to develop. They're all rotational bench players. Yeah, I think that's also a problem. Is they just have the majority of rosters is 6 to 8 guys, not starters. That's the issue. Yeah, I think that there's an issue with that. I do think that Rob Whaley, Bear Cherry, Brooklyn Hicks, I think that those guys can be starters. I think they have the talent to be starters. I think Bedford is like a really great sixth man to have coming off the bench. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I think we'll probably end up, you know, we probably want to be the 6th seed in the Mountain West Conference tournament so that we can play Air Force. Air Force seems to be the only team that we can beat in the Mountain West Conference tournament, despite that tournament being played on our home court. So, the Rebels are going to have to probably beat Colorado State. They're probably going to have to beat Reno, and they're probably going to have to beat one of New Mexico or San Diego State. New Mexico is on the road. San Diego State is at home. They're probably going to have to win one of those two games, and that would probably get them the sixth seed. A top five seed, unless they go undefeated, and even if they do go undefeated, is probably completely out of the question at this point. And without a top five seed, it's going to be really difficult to win the Mountain West Conference tournament. It's near impossible. You have to win 4 games in 4 days. It's not going to happen. And UNLV hasn't won 2 games in the Mountain West Conference tournament since 2013. So, the tournament has been a house of horrors. And in order to go on a run like that and win a conference tournament when you're not a great team, you do have to have the confidence that you can do that. Your team has to believe that your team has to believe they can do it. So, I don't think they do. I don't think they believe it. It feels like all the guys want the season to be over with. Certainly, I think that Bedford is really frustrated because this is his final season of college eligibility, um, and I know Bedford is very frustrated. I know that Rob Whaley has been frustrated. I don't think that Rob Whaley wanted to sit this season out. Um, in fact, I know he didn't. He wanted to be a big. I think he would have been maybe even the leading scorer for this team. But injuries happen, and I think maybe you can blame the UNLV training staff a little bit. I don't think that they always do a great job of keeping the guys in the best possible shape to avoid injuries. I'll be real with you. I don't see it. I think that they look out of shape a lot. So who knows? Who knows? I mean, ultimately, a win is a lot better than a loss. And though I know, believe me, I know because you know, I think there is a sentiment that you hate seeing UNLV basketball treated like this. You hate seeing a person in Kevin Kruger who isn't qualified, doesn't have the skills, doesn't have the charisma, doesn't have the leadership capability of leading the program to where we know it should be. It sucks to see that person doing that to this program. And so I know that there was a temptation among Rebel fans, I'm never going to tell people how to be a fan. People have the right to be a fan any way that they see fit. And I know that there was a temptation among Rebel fans to be like, oh, almost better if we lose this game because then, Kevin Kruger will be punished for, the things that he's done to our program. But ultimately, a win is a win. Crazy games happen. Really, the only indefensible loss this team has on the season is the Wyoming game. Every other game you can look at and say, the other team might have just been better. And so, I'm going to keep supporting the guys. Obviously, I'm going to keep covering them. I'm going to hope that they can turn this into some sort of late season run. A week off will probably be very good for this team. I think that they can maybe reset themselves a little bit. It's been a while. I think I have the stats now too. It's been a little while since they've had time off. I'm just going to run through the stats real quick for this game because I didn't get the chance to. So DJ Thomas had a really bad game. He did have 7 assists, which is nothing to sneeze at. So offensively, it's tempting to say he had a completely terrible game, but 7 assists is impressive, especially with only 1 turnover. But DJ Thomas ends up going 3 for 10 from the field, 1 3-pointer made, 2 for 7 from 3. Not great. He had a 92 offensive rating. Jaden Henley finished with 13 points. He was 5 of 10 from 2, 1 of 4 from 3. Again, 9 rebounds. I thought that this was a completely reasonable and a solid performance from Jaden Henley. Julian Rishwain. Ooh, it was worse than I thought. Julian Rishwain was 2 of 5 from 2, 8 points. He had he didn't. Ooh. Julian Rishwain. So Ken Palm, where I get these stats from, I guess I can put them on the screen. Any coaches on their radar already? Yeah, the Rebels have a lot of names that they're going to be looking at and looking for in terms of who to be their next head coach. I don't know the list yet. I don't think anybody knows the list yet. I think the Rebels are trying to be respectful of the team to try and give them, obviously Kevin has basically been told already that he is not going to be the head coach next year. And I don't think that Kevin would, stand in front of you and say, I have done enough to continue being the head coach. I think he probably believes that he could be the head coach and turn it around. But I think it's pretty clear that his level of success just hasn't been adequate. So yeah, there are coaches on the radar. There are guys that I like. I think that Tim Miles from San Jose State would be a good option. I think Tom Crean would be a good option, the ex Indiana head coach. We all like Russell Turner. I think that would be a great choice. Um, I think the Rebels are going to spend something like $2 million on their new head coach, and they're going to try and get a big name. They're going to try to. That's the strategy that has worked for football, and they think they're going to do it for basketball too. And I trust that the administration. I may think that they're full of crap with this Pac-12 thing, but I trust the administration will do the best that they can and pick a good guy. So back to the stats. Julian Rishwain, 8 points, really bad performance. Bear Cherry actually surprised me. I thought he did a little bit better than that. So he had 5 points, 2 of 6 from the field. He did make his only free throw. He ended with 6 rebounds and 4 blocks. Bear Cherry had an excellent defensive game. His offensive rating was second highest on the team. Really liked what I saw from Bear. Even though 2 of 6 from the field may not look great, I think Bear Cherry actually did have a solid game. Jalen Bedford had 13 points as well, 3 of 9 from three. I thought that he was, he didn't have a good game, but I thought it was at least he put points on the board. Um, Pop actually had the highest offensive rating on the team at 202. He finished with 6 points, no, 4 points, 2 of 2 from the field with 5 rebounds. Brooklyn Hicks had just a bizarre game, only 12 minutes, 0 of 2 from two, 0 of 1 for three, 2 offensive rebounds. And of course, the worst rated player on the team for this game was Jalen Hill, who had 2 points, 1 of 2 from two, 0 of 1 from the free throw line, did have 5 rebounds, but Jalen Hill had 0 assists, 4 turnovers. I mean, he played 20 minutes. I think that's probably too much for this game. At least Kruger did kind of keep him out, but there's just not enough great options on the wing for this team. And so not a good game for Jalen Hill. I thought Zayon Collins, he was only three of, obviously he was an ex-Rebel recruit, but he had 6 points, 7 assists, 1 turnover, 6 rebounds or 7 rebounds. Big fan of Zayon Collins. It's an absolute tragedy what happened with him. And obviously, with the tragic situation where he was going to be a Runnin Rebel, but obviously he made some mistakes. And anyway, but still kind of wish him the best while trying to be respectful of what happened in that situation. Yeah, Hicks has barely played this year. I think he's a surefire transfer unless the new coach can only 12 minutes. I just don't know how you can only play Brooklyn Hicks 12 minutes. Yeah, Julian Rishwain is kind of a hot and cold shooter. On the season, Rishwain is shooting, let me see, what is Rishwain shooting for three? He's shooting 34%. He hasn't been a bad three-point shooter. 34% is, especially for the volume that he has been completely reasonable. And he has had some good defensive moments as well. Yeah, we got to get rid of the DRF horrors. I did a story, not a story, but a post where I talked about when Kevin Kruger was hired, when TJ Otzelberger was hired, when Marvin Menzies was fired. And the people that were running the UNLV athletic department at that time were so incompetent and created a financial situation where now UNLV, in terms of going to the Pac-12, hasn't been able to put their student athletes in the best position to succeed. And that's sad. And it's because of the malfeasance of the previous athletic administrations, and especially DRF, Desiree Reed-Francois, our athletic director before the current one, Eric Harper. So, where does this team go from here? Again, a win is a win, but this game can't have given you much confidence in the rest of their season. UNLV will play Colorado State on the 22nd, so a week from today. They are actually favored by KenPom to win this game, but it is at a perfect 50% chance. I mean, the only reason KenPom is giving UNLV a chance in this game is because it's a home court game. I actually don't love our chances in this game. Colorado State has really come on strong as of late. They are 16-9 on the year, but they just obliterated Wyoming today. They beat San Diego State at home. The only really bad games they have on the year is the New Mexico home game where they kind of got run out of the gym in terms of conference play. So Colorado State's a very good opponent. It's going to anyone want my tickets for CSU? Yeah, shoot a message to Mike if you want his tickets. Um, so UNLV will play Colorado State. That's a game I give them maybe a 30% chance of winning. They certainly could. I'm certainly more bearish than Ken Palm is, which thinks UNLV has a 50-50 chance. Then they play at San Jose State. That's going to be a tough out. San Jose State has proven that they can play with teams. They are, the sole team to beat New Mexico in conference play this year. San Jose State's going to be a tough out. You hope that the Rebels can win both of those. I'm going to say that they probably are going to lose one and win the other. So that would put the Rebels at 9-9 or 9-8 on the season in conference play. Then they play at home against Reno. Again, Ken Palm has that as a 50-50 chance that the Rebels win. I think the Rebels absolutely can beat that Reno team. That Reno team is not very good, but it's going to be tough. And then the Rebels will finish out the season with San Diego State and New Mexico. San Diego State at home and New Mexico on the road. There are 5 games left in the regular season. What do I think the Rebels do? I think 3-2 would probably be about what you could expect here. That would put them at 4-2 for this last stretch. 3-2 would be great. Say they lose at New Mexico and they lose to Colorado State. 4-1, and they're probably going to be playing a lot better than they are right now, obviously. But yeah, it's going to be tough. Ken Palm has them finishing 10-10. 12-8 would probably be preferable. Obviously, be preferable. But it's a tough stretch. So, I guess we'll see. I do kind of briefly want to talk about football. Obviously, the program is still trying to deal with the fact that they lost Ben Chrisman, an offensive lineman, in he tragically passed away. But the UNLV football program is kind of chugging along. They've added new coaches. They added a coach from Utah to be their quarterbacks coach, which I don't love because if you've paid attention to the Utah quarterback situation, it's been a little bit of a debacle over the last few years. But we don't really know what this guy is going to what kind of role this guy is going to have in the new in the new in the new hierarchy of things at UNLV football. We have not had very many open practices type situations. They are working out. They're doing kind of winter ball right now, but we don't know a ton. Obviously, I'm not at practices. I'm not with my podcast. I would love to be able to go to press conferences and go to practices and attend. Everything the other stuff. Besides just going to the games, I would love to be able to do that. But with my schedule, I'm graduating law school, taking the bar. I can't really do that right now. So I am going to be getting my information from the people that report on the team, Mike Ramala, the people that go to practice and talk about what they're seeing. There's just a lot we don't know about this UNLV football program right now. We don't know, who's going to be the starter between Colandrea and Alex Orji. I would still favor Colandrea at the moment, but I guess we'll see. I would love to. I wish I had more information about UNLV football right now, but Dan Mullen is the program's still trying to recover from losing Ben Chrisman, and so we just don't have a lot out right now. But 247 has UNLV and Boise State. If you combine the transfer portal ranking class and the high school ranking class as 1 and 2 in the Mountain West, and I think that's probably about right. Joke's on you. It's Friel. I don't think Cam Friel will be the starting quarterback next year. Cam Friel is kind of the perennial backup type quarterback. But Cam Friel is a great break glass in case of emergency player. He's a guy who commands respect in the entire locker room. And I'm sure that Cam Friel will be a big part of this team in terms of being a leader. So no disrespect to Cam Friel. I don't think he'll be the starter, but if Alex Orji and Colandrea both get hurt and they're throwing crazy interceptions, Cam Friel will be at least a serviceable quarterback. He will lower the ceiling of this team and this program, but he probably doesn't have a super low floor either. He will probably at least be able to raise the floor a little bit because Colandrea is a little bit of a gunslinger and has a lot of threw a lot of picks at Virginia, and Orji is in terms of throwing the football is a limited player. So I guess we'll see. We just don't have a ton of information out of spring ball yet. The spring game, I hope I'm going to be able to get to it. I believe that they're planning on doing it. There are a lot of programs around the country that are getting rid of their spring games, mostly because you're able to attend them, and other teams will send scouts to other teams' spring games and basically scout players and try and take guys off of your roster in the spring transfer portal window. As of right now, I believe that UNLV is still planning on doing a spring game, and so hopefully I'll be able to cover that. The best way that I can in whatever capacity that I'm capable of. But yeah, so good game tonight. A good win tonight. A win. I don't want to say good at all. It was a win. They won. It's better than losing, and it's good for the players that they won. But DJ Thomas has got these. Is Orgy Blurt? I guess I'll address one more question. Is Orgy a better passer than Sluka? I actually think Sluka was a not a bad passer of the football at all. I think Sluka was completely fine. And I think that Sluka being our quarterback last year, in my opinion, would have led to a higher ceiling for the team. I think the team maybe could have beaten Boise with Sluka. Sluka was not a bad passer. He was just playing a pretty good Houston and Kansas defense. And then obviously the game against Utah Tech was a complete and utter joke. So I actually don't think Sluka was a bad passer, but what he was a terrible teammate. So, I think the football team's ceiling this year was higher with Matthew Sluka, but certainly their floor was lower with him because he wasn't a good teammate and he abandoned the program. So I would probably rather have Alex Orji than Matthew Sluka, but Matthew Sluka did have the talent. So guys, I will be talking to you sometime during the week. I'll get you a podcast up. We'll talk about where the team is kind of as we deal with their off week, with their bye week, as I guess you could call it. And we'll talk about football as more information comes out on the team. But I appreciate you guys checking out the show today. I hope you guys have a wonderful Saturday. Have a good Sunday. Have a good President's Day. Maybe go buy yourself a mattress or something. I don't know. I don't know what people do on President's Day. So have a great one, and let's run.